welcome to the Book by Book, a podcast about the odd book or two you've read. I'm your host Scott, and I'm not alone. Toby's here too. This episode, we're talking about Stephen King's The Cycle of the Werewolf. This is a pretty low spoiler warning episode, so if that's okay with you, continue on, and I'll see you on the other side. Well, it's spring.
Yay!
My friend was laughing at me, like we always get little sparrows on our balcony. Little chubby sparrows, all through winter, all through the depths of winter. And I'm impressed because you look at them and they kind of look podgy, but they're also tiny little birds that can't produce that much heat. And they don't seem to huddle that much. I don't know what they're eating, but they're the only birds, as far as I can tell, that stay through winter, these tiny little sparrow-like things. But recently, there's not a hawk, but other birds have been seen.
The birds are coming.
And it's like I've been reading Game of Thrones, and it's very not winter is coming, but dark wings bring dark news. Like the birds are returning.
Right.
What's the Hobbit? The sparrows are returning to Erebon. It is a sign.
Yeah.
Everything's a sign in these things.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember the movie Troy. The movie Troy. I remember in the cinema, my friend laughed out loud because it was like, we should attack. No, we shouldn't attack. I saw a crane carrying a snake fly above my bed this morning. We must go to war. It's like, bloody hell, what are the chances of that? And also, really? We're going to war because you saw that? I didn't see that. So maybe how many of us need to...
It's a sign.
It's like, but what isn't a sign? That scene, I still chuckle in Lord of the Rings where, they capture Gollum. He's like, that is a sacred pool he is fouling. Like, come on, man. It's just everything's sacred.
It's a puddle.
Yeah. I guess that's the... I'm throwing a lot of pop references this morning.
You're coming up
Avatar or something, in the James Cameron movie when they're like, these are the sacred trees, and is it Giovanni Ribisi? It's like, Jesus, you can't throw a rock without hitting a temple or a sacred shrub or something. What is it with these guys? What are we supposed to do? We're trying to monopolize here. But it's nice. Snow is melting. I have moved to Toronto. I don't know. We're not really getting our podcast out at a decent time like we've been. We're soon to be getting our again, by the time this goes out, it would have been ages ago, but when I'm listening to the midnight mass, it's like, oh, the first snow is here, and we're now spring. But that's right. You know what? They're timeless. They're timeless.
They're timeless. Exactly. You can't place it. How was the move? Did it go okay?
Yeah, it's cool. We're sort of still in an Airbnb. We're not quite set up and running. I'm still job talking, but we're comfortable.
That's good.
We're sort of going. One of us is up and running, and I'm sort of speaking, interviewing, and I've had some offers. I think.
Oh, cool.
It's just a little more officious here with renting and paperwork. So ideally, I need a job, or I just need to pay a lot of money up front to lock down an apartment, which I think I don't think I'd mind normally, but just coming out of COVID and all of the troubles in Russia makes me think just maybe a job falls through again and again. Yeah, it's better to be safe than sorry.
Yeah, completely. So. You've come from where? Where's it? Vancouver to Toronto?
From Montreal to Toronto.
Montreal to Toronto. Is the seasons, are they similar?
Yeah,
the weather and that sort of thing.
As far as I know, Toronto is just a bit further south, so it's like in the height of winter, it's going to be like 5 to 10 degrees less. Like the edge is taken off, but it's sometimes that doesn't make a difference when it's windy. I guess it means that spring hits a bit earlier, but it's just a new exciting city for me. I've always loved it, but during the pandemic, it became a bit suddenly small and constricting, and just got fed up with it. I've been there, going on 8 years maybe.
Wow,
in and out of 8 years.
So Toronto's bigger.
Yeah. It's just a more metropolitan city.
Right. Okay.
I never actually got too fed up with the French side of Quebec and Montreal, but a lot of my friends have. It just I don't know. I never saw any theatre plays there because it's a lot smaller in the English language and predominantly French.
Yeah.
And I know 8 years is a long time, and people, why don't you learn the language? And I put my hat in a few times. I did the same blooming class 3 or 4 times, but it's hard to just say, I'm going to do this all day, every day, because it's something you need to keep up all the time and you have to surrender to it. You can't just pot shop, study it. You can't just do apps. It's
you can't
something,
dip in and out.
No, or you end up like me, having an idea of what the beginning is, but having to refresh yourself time and again. And it's literally another language. There's whole rhythms you need to understand. You need to break a lot of what you know to understand it. And also my work has always just been fully English. So I've never, if I went to one of the smaller companies that I struggled to get through and I was encouraged without feeling like a dick, maybe, but when you don't need to do something, it's hard to take up a hobby you don't really want to do, or willing to put that much hard work on. I would love to just be bilingual without the effort, but that's the trick of everything, right? Like I'd like to do it in a fun way, but learning something is just time and effort. Like you've got the piano going on in the last few years, right? And you must feel the difference between practicing every day for a month and shit, I haven't picked it up.
Yeah,
like 2 months.
100%. Like I can go from being capable of playing a song to having not played it for 2 weeks and feeling like I'm starting from scratch again. And it's crazy. Yeah, it's very hard to keep motivated for something that's so small in its incremental improvements.
Is that do you do a mix of learning it properly, the scales, the sitting, the probably when you're an adult, quite boring lessons, the scale, and then just go, I'm going to learn a honky tonk song that's just fun to play and seems impressive because I need some instant gratification. I need to feel like I'm good.
Yeah, well, cool. I'm currently learning. God, I can't remember the name of it. Angel of Music from Phantom of the Opera. Also, the Jurassic Park theme tune.
What's Angel of Music? Is that
no, it's Sounds a bit like Harry Potter. Yeah, no, it is. It's very famous. It's my favorite song from Phantom of the Opera.
Maybe I did not know you're a Phantom of the Opera fan enough to have a favorite song.
No, I think it's a great musical.
Oh wow, I don't think I've ever seen it. Well, I don't think I know anything about it. Maybe I think I get it mixed up with the Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Understandable.
I think I've ever seen it. Was there like a 2000 release with Gerald Butler or something?
Yes, there was.
Joel Schumacher. Is that a good one or no?
I think Gerald Butler's heralded as being extremely good in the role, considering it's Gerald Butler.
Is a musical?
He went on to become, he fully sings through it and everything. But I saw it on Broadway in New York. So,
okay,
that was my first introduction to it. Was there, and it was incredible, absolutely mind-blowing experience. Loved it, and the music in it is exceptional. Some of them are just really, really good.
Set in Venice? Is it all the masquerade balls and stuff like that? Is it a Hammer horror classic? No, it's not.
Nothing to do with Hammer horror. It's a piece about theatre and a singer, and her coach, possibly or maybe not, is her dad, who's died and has come back as a spirit and is coaching her, but is also in love with her. And there's a whole sort of context going on there that you don't quite know what is. What isn't.
There's a lot to unpack in a short sentence right there.
Yeah,
I think purely because of, I don't know, Simpson-like parodies. I guess I thought it was about a disfigured singer who was living underneath an opera house, who was just
that's
sort of
in essence it.
Oh.
That is in essence it. But he's not. He's a phantom, so you don't know whether he exists or he doesn't exist. And he appears through mirrors, and he's always in the background watching. And the way they do it on stage is really impressive. So I highly recommend everybody go and watch and listen to the soundtrack for.
Is it a musical or an opera? Or there's both?
It's an opera.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's cool. I don't think I've seen too many operas.
It's the only one I've seen, I think. Pretty sure. Yeah.
But you know what is a Hollywood monster classic, such as Frankenstein, is the werewolf. Talking of
The
werewolves, Stephen
Yes, our
King's
next
Cycle
book.
of the Werewolf.
Mm-hmm.
You read it?
We read
I
this
read
one, very quickly, which was good. It's not an awful lot to it, I didn't think.
No.
I think
writing.
For me, the most interesting conversation you can have about this book is going back to what we've spoken about before, is subtext, and does it mean anything deeper than what it actually is, which ties in nicely to what we were saying earlier on about Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit and sacred pools and all of that sort of thing. It's like, is it just a story about a werewolf in a village, or is it subtext for other things? And I want to know your take on it, but yeah, that's for later on.
I can tell you now if you want.
Yeah, go on then.
I think it's just a story about a werewolf.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, even if I wasn't sure, just in his intro, it just seemed like a fun exercise for him. So let's get a bit, I guess, the backstory for people who might not know what this is. So he was just approached by very small independent publishers that he's not used to, or he was just not in bed, but talking with someone for a while. I don't know who, Simon and Schuster, maybe. Is that right? They're quite big, I thought. Well, anyway, and it started off as
probably at the time they weren't
a calendar.
Yes,
like he was going to do
my understanding.
A flip calendar where there's just a small short story
for each month,
which soon got abandoned as a calendar idea. And I guess in the intro he says he sort of had these bits, but he didn't know what he was doing with it for ages. You know, like a good few years, he would snip in and out, but have nothing he was happy with. And then one long flight, he was just on a sort of, I don't know, what's the longest flight? Like UK to Singapore. I don't know, like one of the long flights. And he just sort of like snapped into it and got the bulk of it done or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. That sounds a bit vague, but something like that.
Yeah, pretty much.
So the reason that matters is because it's 12 chapters, one for each month.
Yep.
And the
chapter titles are the months, obviously.
And pretty short, between a page and a half to maybe 4 pages max.
The version I had was, go on, you're going to say fully
illustrated by Bernie Wrightson, who would have pulled in, I think I read, like a lot of people, which is kind of cool, this was their intro to Stephen King. And I think it just comes down to, like, it was the jump from comic books and graphic novels. So I know Stephen King's name, but, you know, he does these hefty things that look like heavy adult books. But he's done this book that's super bite-sized, and I think Bernie himself is did I write some notes? He's quite famous in the graphic novel world. He's done some sort of Batman or something. Let me see if the notes come up. I'm getting a weird clicking. Can you hear anything weird? Or is it just me?
Just you.
Okay. No, I've got no notes. I've got 2 lines for notes. So, but I'm going to give it a quick Google because it was cool. Like he is someone of note. This graphic illustrator.
Yeah, because he does share the front page. It's not like Stephen King's, although it is Stephen King's Cycle of the Werewolf, illustrated by Bernie Wrightson.
Oh, okay. So he co-created Swamp Thing.
Okay, there you go. Yeah.
And
you can see the sort of artistic style in there.
I think he's just done a lot for DC.
Yeah.
They're kind of cool illustrations. Not quite.
I quite like the
illustrations. They do fit it well.
Yeah, I thought they're quite sparse in their telling of what is, you know.
We get sort of 2 types. Each chapter open is like a double page black and white scenic. Like just some rocks with some snow, or in spring, I don't know, some rocks with some spring. And in between, maybe two color images, like full page. And they're pretty nice. The color pops. You know,
they look quite dated. They reflect the time that it was made as well. I think they were.
Yeah, I know what you mean. That there's something. Yeah, exactly that, as you say.
Yeah.
But they're quite fun. You flat out see the werewolf. He's pretty ripped, and a lot of faces caught in terror.
Yes. Yeah. No, I thought there is some quite nice realizations of the text. For sure.
And I think the other cool thing is this is the movie Silver Bullet. Even this
Is it?
Even this got a bloody movie adaptation.
I did not know that.
And it's fairly loose. It's just I guess we want to keep this one spoiler free because it's so short. And if you can surrender to it, it is kind of fun. It's not what you expect, and after about 2 pages, like, okay, there's not a straight through story, but like you said, is there depth in this? So we're not really getting characters. It's just a fun exercise. It's very for kids. You can tell that he wrote this for a younger audience. Like he still does his terror.
But
it's
what I did like about it a lot was and I felt that other than the werewolf and obviously not the main protagonist, but the hero, everybody else is kind of just there for werewolf chomping facility. But you still get a sense of the town and the village living under this fear of knowing that something's happening, like you're starting off, and then as the months go by, the town becomes more and more restricted by this oppressive. At the end of every month, on a full moon, something's going to happen, and you hear snippets of conversations where they float the idea that it could be a werewolf, but they just as quickly shun that idea for being stupid and silly, and almost like they don't want to be heard saying it for fear of mockery. But yet they all live in fear. They start to stay in their houses and things like that, which I thought was quite good.
Right.
You got a sense of the town and the village.
Because once a month, someone's getting killed, or most likely getting killed. I guess it's we can see, for us, we know there's a link, but for them, it's like, because I think one of them is a guy who actually got scared to death and froze. But I don't think he has any marks on him. So you can see how they would be like, well, that's not connected. There's a guy who got his head ripped off in a wood cabin, but we think it might be dogs or a bear.
It's always put down to some form of wild animal.
And I guess for the longest time, these chapters are just, like you said, just vignettes. Like there's not
exactly that. It's
really
almost
character,
like individual poems.
Yeah. George was shutting up the shop today, and he's one of the customers came in late, and then by the end, George is gone, whatever. Do you have a favorite one?
Oh, that's a good question. I really liked the kite.
Okay, yeah, that was fun. It almost felt like a sketch. I could feel the sketch in that.
That was quite scary, that one, for me. That was probably the scariest of all of them, because you were with this person, with the kid with the kite, and he knew he shouldn't be out this late. He could see that things were going down, but he was also so enjoying being out with his kite, and then it gets stuck and and then things start to unfold, and just that sense of building dread of, like, it starts off with a kid who knows he's doing something he shouldn't do, a little bit naughty, another 10 minutes, then I'll get home. You're like, fuck, not another 10 minutes. Come on, lads. No, don't.
Do not know you're in a horror novel.
Yeah. And that was really good, that one. I also liked the uncle character. I thought the uncle character was quite good as a recurring character.
It got strangely dark towards the end, huh? So I don't know if it's a spoiler, because for so long we're just getting these snapshots that are unrelated, and then maybe in the last 4 months we get a few reoccurring characters, and it sort of it does manage, even in these tiny short chapters, to unfold a little beginning, middle, and end, and a resolution, which I didn't see coming. I really I was sort of on board with, like, how wacky can we go, how much fun can we have with each chapter. Like the idea of reading this as a solid book, for sure, it was like, okay, this wouldn't be pleasing just to sort of like, I'm going to get into this, but almost like the calendar, or like, I hope this isn't too much of a offense, like a bathroom book. Like, I'm just going to the toilet. I just did a 4-minute read. This is perfect.
Yeah.
Ooh, that was fun. I see what he did there.
Yeah.
But no, in the end, he does manage to get a few characters in. So blindsided with the fact it was going to be snapshots, when there was a reveal of who the werewolf was, it was like, and it was sort of really obvious when you think about it. The clues were there all along. I just didn't know there was going to be a reveal, so I didn't think it mattered.
Yeah, going to what you're saying about character and adding a bit of depth and everything. Those last 4 chapters was the fact that you got the reveal. We worked out with our hero character who it might be after a bit of detectiveness, and then once that had been revealed, how that character reacts to someone possibly knowing that he might be, or they might be, or she might be a part of the problem, and the way that they react to that. And was quite sinister because up until that point you were like, this is a person that's almost inflicted with a disease and has no control over it. Whereas when it got to that part, it was like, actually no, they know damn well what's going on.
It starts off very classic werewolf, like a sort of, if you will, wake up without any memory, like the Jekyll and Hyde of like, yeah, technically it was him, but he wouldn't have if he had control, like a monster took over. I thought, so at one point, the kid, not knowing what to do, basically sends notes saying, kill yourself. Flipping hell, that felt dark. It's some, I don't know, 13-year-old kid sending, not death threats, but exactly that. Like, I know who and what you are. Why don't you kill yourself? Like, I can see the kids thinking, like, I can't resolve this, but maybe I'll convince him or her to resolve this. It just felt so dark, just the idea of a kid, I'll get him to sort himself out. That's how I'm helping.
I thought it was very tight as well. It didn't have any holes. I was like, why hasn't this person worked out it's this, or why haven't they all worked out it's this? And it's just, they just never came into contact until the very point when they did. And then it was as soon as they did come into contact, it was like, well, you're the bad guy. You must be. There's nobody else here. But there was a good long period, like when he was sent away and all those sorts of things, that accounted for why such things were able to continue to happen, even though we'd had our hero character and he had some form of impact at about the halfway mark. So yeah, it's hard to talk about it without going into too many spoilers. But yeah, so what did you think?
Did it feel like a bit of a downer ending? Oh man, like it could have been like a celebratory ending, but it was very, the kid's sad at the end. The kid's, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It didn't feel like for what this book is and what he was doing and who his audience was. It sort of brought me down to finish this book, like with the characters. Like, oh man, like that. You feel like that this kid is now probably going to have to go into therapy a bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. It's not the victory ending where he high fives and skateboards off and he goes to school a hero. He's in a wheelchair. There's no skateboard, but
no, wheels off rather than skateboards. But no, you're right. It does. It is a bit of a solemn ending, I guess. But I guess that's down to the nature of small town America and the way that small town America are affected by certain facets and subcultures, and then if something of that subculture becomes a bad person and that subculture is revered, and you have to end that. I'm trying not to spoil it really hard here. It's very hard not to. So I can see why that solemn ending may have existed if a small town is like that.
I guess in a small town, something. It's not like it was a stranger. It's in a small town. You. I guess the kid's realizing he affects everyone. He's a part of the small town, and you don't go unnoticed.
Yeah,
it's kind of cool. But then it's such a short story. None of that really has the time to breathe.
No,
I guess fair enough. I don't know. I think my favorite chapter
established is there.
Yeah, true. It is in briefly as it may be. Is it February? You get this very like some sort of overweight, overly romantic virgin woman who's I think contemplating suicide or something, and it just felt very like a Kate Bush song transcribed.
Yeah,
because the first one was very nothing to me. January was like, okay, so we're just getting in here, like a guy's. We're not going to spoil every chapter, but chapter 1 I think is just like a woodworker hearing a knock on the door.
Yeah.
Like your very classic horror. You're very Poe.
Growling and scratching.
Something scratching at the door. Knock, knock, knock. And then the second one is like this lady who is sort of, the kids make fun of her. She he keeps referring to her virgin bed, which is like, it gets a bit, not repetitive, but like, we get it, King, Jesus. And Like there's like 2 or 3 mentions in 3 pages. You know what I mean? But she's sort of, I think it starts off like she's got loads of Valentine's Day cards. She wrote them all herself. And then so she has this crazy, like, I don't know, the wolf is going to embrace her and she's never been embraced before. So she kind
open to it.
Although it's horrific there, she kind of dies happy.
Yeah, she does.
It just
felt
she goes
out with a smile on her face.
Yeah, like a Kate Bush song. I just for some reason, I just thought of that, and I just quite like this one. I guess that's what set me in a good mood. Before I knew it was going to start being connected, I was just like, if this book just stays snippets and they're like this, each one is just different in its own way, but can keep me going, I'll be happy. Did get a bit repetitive. There was a few too many of basically like the first guy, the guy in the wood cabin and scratching at the door.
Yeah, the copper.
You sort of stop doing new things with it for a while. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, this guy's in a shop. This guy's in a car. This guy's on a train. I don't know.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
The speed of it means you're never really bogged down or pissed off of it. It's like, I think I read the first half of the book in one lunch break.
Yeah.
I just sit down and read, and then it's like, okay, that was half of that.
Yeah, it took me about a week of 10-minute journeys on the train to read it. So it is very, very short, very consumable. And obviously it is a good way into King for some people. Yeah,
like I was saying, like for kids who are, moving from comics to books, I think a lot of people said this was their first one.
Good bridge. Yeah. Gateway drug.
I guess like the last one we did, the Colorado Kid, I liked it enough, but I don't think I got anything from this, I'll admit, which I think is the very high consensus of this. It's I don't know, I guess King has been such an outspoken fan of his Hammer horrors. You've read, is it Dance Macabre? No, that's not right. He did one on writing. Not on writing, but he did one about the nature of horror. Is that right?
Yes, I think it was Dance Macabre, yeah.
Oh, it was,
It's called Dance Macabre, yeah.
And I think you were telling me there's literally a chapter on Frankenstein, a chapter on the werewolf, a chapter on, I don't know, all those classics, and about how they sort of echo the 4 types of horror. And everything since is just a version of this. You know what I mean? You've got your good versus evil, you've got your good is the evil and the conflicting something. I haven't read it, but I won't quote it. And so as far as I know, this is his only werewolf novel.
I believe so, yeah. I can't think of another one.
I mean, if I ever go through his list, there's always some obscure stuff. I'm like, I don't think I know that one. So I wouldn't be surprised if there is a werewolves in his, but
maybe a short story.
For being such an outspoken fan of the classics and to do his own werewolf one. But you know what? I have seen Silver Bullet, and it's an example of I don't think I would have cared to read a full novel. I don't think I'm a werewolf fan. Are you a werewolf fan?
Am I? Not massively, I don't think. Like I've seen, if a film with werewolf is on Netflix and it shows me that it looks half decent, I will watch it because I quite like horror. There's a series called Wolf Like Me that's currently on Amazon.
Okay,
that's really good. I thoroughly enjoyed that, and that's about a romantic couple or a couple that get into a romantic liaison, but one of them is a werewolf and has to try and hide it or keep it hidden, and locks herself in her basement and all of this sort of thing. Chickens, but accidentally through a series of mishaps, he ends up locked in the house with her when she turns into a werewolf. Yeah. It was really good, though. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's very, very funny. It's very sweet. And it explores some interesting TV show.
Okay, I guess I check it out. There's so many cheap werewolf films. There's so much crap horror out there. And this feels like the zombie genre. It's just hard to nail. I feel like a lot of horror fans would say, you know what, we haven't got much money or talent, and a werewolf thing seems prime. You can shoot it in the woods. And I think we've spoken before, woods is always a fun space for early filmmakers because you can spread out, make noise, and just claim an outdoor territory and sort of, utilize the space.
And woods are naturally scary.
But I've seen the first half of so many cheap horror films that just can't pull it off, But saying that I'm not a fan of the werewolf film, there are a few I love.
There's some really good ones. Dog Soldiers.
Then that's a weird one because that probably does border on that. This is too cheap for its own good. I saw that in the cinema, and everyone I was with hated it. Specifically,
I loved it.
The cheapness of it. But I at that time, I guess I was really into the Evil Dead, so I was just like not championing the cheapness, but like, you know, this is like more inventive.
Yes, yeah, exactly that. I totally agree with you.
Doing its best under the limits of its
the disappear behind a table, come up.
See, that's the scene that killed it for them, because they literally a guy's and he jumps under a table, and you hear like ripping and stuff. And my friend was like, but he just thought you could hear him changing into the suit. Like, rather than like gruesome ripping noises. But I mean, I was a huge fan of American Werewolf in London. I think not only is it a great film, it's funny, it's super gory. That early John Landis, that transformation is stunning. But also, one of my first crushes was Jenny Auteuil, because of this sort of, is it 60s? Logan's Run, the movie. I don't know why. I just saw that really young, and sort of, I think she was like one of my first crushes before sort of Spice Girls and stuff, which is that weird. I guess if you grew up around like Bond films, it was that like, oh, I really like the woman from, I don't know, Goldfinger or whatever.
Wasn't Logan's Run based off of I Am Legend?
No. Logan's Run it's like a sci-fi. It's set in the future, and basically everyone retires. Yes, that's right. My one is like a sort of one of those 60s futuristic ones where it's just super colorful. Everyone's wearing a jumpsuit. So within society, once you hit like 40, you basically, what's that Viking thing, you know, from Midsummer, where it's like you're old and society doesn't support you. Come into this Mad Max style Thunderdome, and we'll shoot lasers at you. And the crowd is like, "Hey!" and you choose to do it. It's like, this is we're retiring you, they call it. Yeah. And so there's people who run, and so Michael York, which most people would know him as like the guy from Austin Powers, who is like the boss of Austin Powers. It's weird when you,
I know the guy, yeah.
But he just chases runners, and so you have this cool crystal in your hand, and that shows your age. And the machine is like, I'm turning you red, which means you're at the age where you're going to die soon. Infiltrate the runners, go underground and find the runners. So he's literally someone who, I think they call him a Sandman, who normally runs around very brutally killing these people. Like, no, when I hit that age, I'll be happy to die. Finds himself like jumps 10 years. Anyway, we're getting well into this. It's got nothing to do with werewolves, but the female lead in that was Jenny Auteuil, who was also in Werewolf in London.
Silver Bullet. Oh, Werewolf in London, not Silver Bullet. No. So like you say, there are some good werewolf films, like Wolf. Jack Nicholson one.
That's surprisingly fun, kind of hammy, kind of dumb, but I guess I love the chewing the scenery. I mean, James Spader, come on, I don't know why he's so freaky. I don't know how he acts everyone. But he's good at unnerving sinisterness. I did once read this little book called Howling Mad, and it was like a play. It was like a wolf that got bit by a werewolf, and every full moon he turns into a human.
Brilliant.
And it was super short. It was like a comedy, and it didn't quite know where to go with it, but it was just really enjoyable for what it was. He sort of became a slob. Like he had this woman that was in love with him, but he basically found he loved being human and to be a slob. He would literally sort of drink beer, eat, sit on the sofa, watching TV all the time because it's stuff he couldn't do as a wolf. Yeah, I can't remember. I think this writer did a few. There was a vampire one where I can't remember the sort of the funny twist, but he sort of did that kind of funny twist thing.
Yeah. That's quite clever.
The idea is
I like the idea of that. Yeah, that's genius.
So I really don't know where I'd rate this. I think a lot of people just have that, it's fun, but there's no depth. We want depth, but I guess I'm all right with this being what it is because it didn't take much time. I feel like a lot of my thoughts, like I said, the Colorado Kid match this. Like if it was longer, maybe, but I don't think I like werewolf novels, so I'm happy for it to be what it is. I think just a fun, like King having fun again. I think even I read initially he was happy for it to go out of print. He wanted it to slip out of print. So it become this, not rare, but more of a a collector's anomaly, like good for the
Like a
people who have a
novelty,
copy.
yeah.
Yeah. But obviously the publisher's like, we have a Stephen King book. We're not like, this is lucrative.
Yeah. Yeah, everything he touches turns to gold.
Mm.
Yeah, it's one for the collectors, I guess, rather than the readers.
Do you have a first edition? I don't think it's that rare at this stage.
Yes, I do.
I have the reprint.
For me, I'm in complete agreement. I can't really add much more to that. I think I enjoyed it when I read it.
Would you
I
give
would
this
never
to Lana?
read it again.
Would you read this to Lana? How old is your daughter?
Lana.
Your daughter's 30?
She's 11.
11. You think that's on the edge?
Probably. She'd probably be able to take it. I don't know whether she'd enjoy it though. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what she's going to be into reading, to be honest with you. Whether she's going to go down. At the moment, she's reading Diary of a Wimpy Kid and things like that. So.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess when you put it like that, suddenly Cycle of the Werewolf does seem unage appropriate. You know what I mean? Because it's not. It is gory. It is gory, but it's gory in a fun way. But maybe it's hard for me to say. Like I don't have a kid, but I think I'd be very like, she can watch The Shining. She's 10. You know what I mean? It's all implied. It's all in the feeling. She's not seeing anything particularly. But we do get, chapters that end with like, they found his head under the tire 3 days later, sort of potentially haunting things for a young kid that are just like,
growing up when I was younger, I guess I was probably a wimp because I wasn't allowed to watch anything that wasn't age appropriate. So if it's a 15, I had to be 15. If it was 18, I had to be 18, and I very rarely got to see anything that I wasn't appropriately aged to see. Funnily enough, Werewolf in London was the first film I saw that I wasn't age appropriate for, and it terrified the crap out of me.
Yeah, that's
watching. I saw it around a friend's house, and his parents put it on, and he'd obviously been watching these sorts of films for a while. This is the first experience, and I was really looking forward to watching a slightly scary film. But within the first, the marsh sequence and when he gets eaten, then. And you see him getting his skin torn off and all that. I was just like, oh my God, this is horrible. I don't like
graphic
this at all. Yeah, and then they had 2 dogs in the house as well. So I would stroke the dogs to sort of like make it look like I wasn't scared. So I could look at the dog, not at the TV, because I didn't want to embarrass myself. And then it got to the subway bit when his mate turned up and his head was hanging off. And I was just like, yeah, no, I'm done. And I left. I went home. I couldn't stomach it.
That's sweet.
So, So it took me a very long time to get into horror.
No, fair enough. I remember the first time I saw The Shining because I snuck down to watch it.
Okay.
Like on a week, I knew I wasn't allowed to, but it was on super late, and I sort of snuck down. And back then with those CRTV TVs, you had to like just have the volume on 1 and sit really close. Yeah. And it was like 1 a.m. on a school night, I think, and it hit the shower scene. Yeah, I guess that's the first gore I saw, maybe, or like this is adult gruesome. And I shut it off. I'm like, nope, I've made a mistake here. And we have like foxes we have foxes, and if you've ever heard the call of a fox or foxes mating, it's like, it sounds like human shrieking.
Yeah.
And so all night there was foxes. I think our neighbors had a security light installed. And so they had this light that would turn on when it would sense, I'm guessing a fox because it was so late in the morning, which would throw shadows across my room. The most sleepless night.
Amazing.
It's that thing of, I'd love to get it back, but when you're a kid, you're not even safe in your own bed, under your own blanket. Like your room, the very room you're in becomes alien and unfriendly.
Yes,
I do miss that. You know what I mean? Like that's one of the only instances I'm sure there was loads. I was not a brave kid. But that's a very striking memory I have of being scared. And that was you know what I mean? Because The Shining wasn't, it was all tone, right? That's famously, The Shining was mostly tone. Yeah.
I guess you did have the twin girls and the corridors.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of winking and stuff. And I think I learned early, like, if I'd have watched the end, I'm sure they would have defeated that old lady. And that's not, but like if you watch the end and you've seen them defeat it, is it less scary?
Yeah.
Because then the door is always open.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing with flipping Freddy Krueger is you think that they've defeated him, but he always flicking comes back, and you just like, just frick out, die already, and stay dead, so I can get over this. Don't keep coming back for number 2, number 3, number 4. It's like, what's the point?
Friday the 13th and Halloween were the beginning of the last minute scare. The twist grab. Now it's like not cliche, but like, yeah, of course it's a horror. We're gonna have one last horror, or if there is, there's no big shock. But back then it was, especially is it Friday the 13th where she's on the riverboat and it's very dreamy and like she survived, and then like the corpse, like the scariest thing in the entire film because it turns out it's Jason Voorhees' mother, and like, oh, it's the mum. That's and if you didn't see that originally, you're like, oh, I thought it was the guy in the hockey mask, but no, that's all the sequels. But that first one where basically the zombie corpse comes out and puts his arm around her. Oh,
yeah.
That's like, oh, come on. I was happy. I could defeat the mum.
Yeah.
I can go to sleep knowing that if the mum comes for me, I can outrun her, I reckon.
Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah. Horror took a while to gestate its way into my psyche. Comfortably enough to be able to.
Weird because I don't think horror books ever got to me in that way. But the horror books never feel scary to me. I can't think of anything that I was genuinely scared of. There's some have put visuals in my head that are gross. I've read a few, I think like a French historical book that just described a very brutal torture and death. Right. And like the images were like, that is so graphic. That is such horrible torture. Like now we're talking 15, 20 years later. I remembered like, maybe not the word for word, but like I remember those torture devices, and it still makes me like wince to know that was based on something that happened. Very few horror books leave an image with me, but that is gross and unnerving. But I've never been, like I'm scared. And maybe it's because I got into horror so late as an adult. Yeah, like I think I said at the age a lot of my friends were reading King, I was probably reading like Star Wars and stuff like that. Yeah, I was sort of early 20s into King probably, rather than mid-teens where it would have had a cool effect.
Yeah, I think my first, I can't remember. I'm pretty sure I said it was kind of when I was in college. So I'd left school and I was first year of college. That's when I first introduced to King and Dark Half.
And I guess for me, I think I've said before, my first King was Insomnia, which is great.
Which is
you know what? That wouldn't have been early 20s. That would have been my teens because I was doing work placement. But it's not horror per se. There's no. It's
I haven't read that one yet. Still,
I don't know where it lies in the fandom, or if I only like I've read it a few times since. I do really like that one. I feel like that's a strange one, but it's one of those ones where I'm like, why isn't everyone talking about this? And actually, I do know why, because it is obscure, but it's good. It's really good, actually.
It's like Dolores Claiborne. Like that was my second Stephen King book, and I really enjoyed it, but it wasn't remotely scary. And I was
that's a cracker, huh?
After coming off the back of Dark Half, which I fucking loved and was terrified to crack. It was proper gripping, and then I went to Dolores Claiborne, which was so radically different and about abuse and family.
It's almost like a melodrama.
Yeah. But it was so good. Really, really enjoyed it. The dust bunnies are coming. All that stuff.
Yeah, we have to read that sometime. I read that. I think we just put it off, and then I don't know, for some reason it goes so far back on the list. But I read that within the last few years, and it was great. Some of his best writing.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Have you ever read Misery?
Yes, it's pretty good. It's one of those ones that's tricky because the film is so iconic. Yeah, I can't help but feel that when I read it, even though I hadn't seen the film in like 5 or 6 years, I'm just sort of doing a bit of a comparison.
Yeah,
it never quite does it justice, but you know what? It's good. It's not necessarily in a bad way. I'm currently reading Game of Thrones, book 1.
I was going to ask about that.
And so I haven't seen first season since it aired. I think our mutual friend James got me to watch it just before season 2 aired. So now we're talking a TV show I watched 10 years ago. But I mean, I love how Game of Thrones has echoed. Like, there are characters who got killed off in season 1 and they're still on your mind. You know what I mean? It's not like remember Walking Dead? You're like, oh, remember that guy? Like, no, who's he? Like, oh, he died in season 1. Like, I don't remember season 1 particularly.
Yeah. No,
it's Game of Thrones had like who's the guy who plays Aquaman? Jason Momoa. Like, I don't know if it's a spoiler, but it's Game of Thrones. I think everyone's seen it now. Like his character doesn't make it past season 1. but
Yeah.
it really
Yeah.
feels like the strength of the characters and what these actors brought to it really echoes through. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, yeah, Khal Drogo, like there's 9 seasons, and you're talking about a character from one season, like he's if people overheard conversations, they'd be like, hey, he's gone. Does he come back? Like, no, they talk about him every now and then, but no, he's not. Like, you talk about him so strongly, like he was gonna rule the whole thing. It's a cracking read.
Is it now?
I'm super enjoying it. There's a handful of books that I have that I can dip into. American Gods, Lord of the Rings. I can just pick it up, literally flick to a random page, go, oh, this is that bit, and then probably for the next week, just read from there.
Right.
Like I don't like I would read the whole thing again for sure, but I just feel like I know it enough that it's I don't know, and this feels like one I'm going to keep because it's so enjoyable.
This is the first one that you've read. First time you've read it.
This is the first time I've read book 1 of Game of Thrones. I have read like book from maybe 3, 4 to wherever it was released. I haven't read the first 2 or 3. I was I caught the TV show and I loved it. And I was traveling once and I just, I was doing long buses and I just sort of saw it in a second shot. I think it's Sword of Storms, maybe the third one.
Yeah.
And it was as season 3 was out, but I was traveling, so I couldn't really watch it. So I just picked up the book. I'm like, no, I'm sure it'll be fine. And I loved it. So, oh God.
No, really?
And since then,
I've not read any of his work.
I mean, I think you'd be surprised. I don't know. I guess they are chunky. Like I've been lucky that despite the fact I moved, like in the last few months, I sold my TV and my sofa because of this move. And as a result, even though I've been super busy, when I wasn't busy, it's like, what am I going to do? I don't even have a sofa to sit on. I was just like not even a mattress, like a blanket on the floor. So I found myself just reading a lot when I could. And I just, I'll give this Game of Thrones one a go. Like it's been on my shelf for ages, but you have books that are like, when am I going to be in the mood to read that? And I think I was just messaging you, go, should we, let's do Billy Summers. Let's do Rage. Let's do just calm down.
Yeah.
Like every other day I was like, let's do this. You're like, oh, I haven't even pulled the first one out yet. And then I settled on Game of Thrones. Yeah. And I didn't know how I was going to feel because of the TV show, but I'm loving it. I'm over halfway through in like 3 weeks.
Wow.
But listen to me, where I've had the last week off. And so I'm new to Toronto. So I'll literally pack a bottle of water, a book, some headphones, and I'm going to go explore the city. And because the weather's still turning, I am having about 4 coffees a day, which is pretty unhealthy. Like it's not warm or dry enough to sit outdoors. So I'll just go in and get a coffee, and then I'll sort of read for half hour, and it goes super quick. It's so readable. Like sometimes you look at a fantasy and you think, there's the fan base, and is this something that's accessible to me? Because I've read a few.
Is it going to be a slog?
Yeah, I've read a few. I think MJK Nimitz, I don't mispronounce her name, that was so highly reviewed. And and I have a bad habit of, if I'm going to buy book 1, I'm going to buy book 3. I'll get my way through the tree no matter what. And it doesn't always pay off.
Right.
And the Inheritance trilogy, maybe, or the Broken Earth trilogy. I got to the end. I'm like, I think I hate it. And I had the 1 volume edition, and I was like, I'm going to put this on the market. You know what I mean? Like I'm not. If you ask me to sum up the events and what matters, I couldn't. And that's always a problem when you don't know what's a big deal. Like there's a huge reveal, which on reflection, this is like a series end. This is the Luke, I am your father, and I'm going, oh, okay, that's Darth Vader's Luke's father. What's next? When is this story going to pick up? Just not feeling like, I'm not saying I need everything to be heavy-handed, because there are some I really like. I think when we did the Elantris one, that has a fair few subtleties, and even though it gets bogged down, well, there's a whole hour podcast about that. I really like that. Oh God, talking about that, Brandon Sanderson.
Yo, what on earth has he been up to?
Oh.
Jesus, that man is a machine.
So,
ladies and gentlemen,
he was already a machine. His Stormlight Archive books are like 1,500 page plus. He's on book 4 and in a healthy speed. He's no what's his name?
George
Patrick
R. R.
Rothfuss or
Martin.
George R. R. Martin. He's knocking them out, I don't know, every 2 years. And he's
Incredible.
like, yeah, I think I'm going to do 8, maybe 15. I'm a flipping heck, 8 to 15. They're super epic. I haven't read any. Like, I really want to read his stuff in order, and I've read 1.
Wow. Was it good though?
Yeah, I mean, that's one where I bought loads of his stuff, and then I got nervous. Like, what if I don't like it? And I've got his next trilogy, which is pretty high rated.
Yeah.
The Mistborn trilogy. I think people have issue with some of the characters being a bit cliche, but it's it got him off to a big bang that got his following. But so yeah, listeners, he just sort of had this video and he's like, I have a confession to make, and he's quite solemn. Like, oh, what is this? But it's on his channel. Like, I don't know. I thought maybe he's been ghostwriting. Maybe he's, you know what I mean? I don't know. He's just playing a prank.
Maybe he's ill.
And he was like, since the COVID hit, boom, I wrote a novel. I mean, oh, that's cool. And I was like, well, he writes a lot. Why is he telling us he wrote a new novel like this? But I'm guessing it's because it had nothing to do with the stuff that was on his plate.
Yeah.
And then within the next 2 minutes, he just goes, I didn't write 1 novel during the lockdown. I wrote 2. Boom. And then he basically wrote 5 novels during the pandemic that were unexpected. So that's not including whatever was on his plate. And he's just slamming these manuscripts down. And so I have no idea how it works with his publishing, but he's gone to Kickstarter. And as far as I know, he's he's like broken records for Kickstarter.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's destroyed them. Absolutely destroyed them. Like millions and millions of pounds
like
raised.
10 millions in 2 days or something. Yeah. And I don't know where it is now. That was like the early days of it.
It's incredible.
It's impressive. It made me feel like, because I wasn't furloughed for the whole 2 years, but I had a solid 6 months off. I did not write 5 novels or do anything that. I did some stuff. I'm not like, I didn't totally bum out. I need to be active in some way, or I feel too much guilt, which I hate. I wish I could just chill out when I can. But I think we spoke more, but the furlough in the pandemic was not a paid holiday. It wasn't, yes, I'm off work. It was like, how long is this going to last? Am I going to be able to pay my rent? Is the government going to thingy? Is this the end of the world? Am I going to get COVID? It wasn't a relaxing, I didn't win a 6-month break paid. So in that respect,
it's not easy on anybody. A lot of people struggled. It's such a surprising change to the norm that everybody was affected in such drastically different ways.
But even though we knew everyone was going through it, there was still this, I don't know, this like, am I the only one feeling like it felt alienating and isolating in such a horrible way. I guess there was that meme that I was sort of copying and pasting and sending to him. It's like, if you just got through the day, that's enough. Like just making it through the day is enough of a thing to have done.
Yeah, it's an achievement.
And it's like I say, it's easy now, a year later to, damn it, I had 6 months off, but
you didn't know it at the time.
It doesn't matter anyway. 6 years, I haven't done that much. What's the 6 things I'm going to do?
Brilliant. No, I don't know. Yeah. I think I spent the first 2 months thinking it was just going to be the best holiday ever. Well, first month especially, but very quickly I became extremely bored, very frustrated, extremely lonely, and just thought I need to start doing things that make me feel more productive and positive. Because it does make a massive difference. Like if you're at work, I got my job, I'm very quiet day to day. Sometimes it's almost dead. I go and turn YouTube on, watch YouTube, turn YouTube off, go home again, and that can be an entire day. But then you have days where you go in and you don't get the chance to sit down. You're busy. You're solving problems. You're answering questions. You're helping light stuff, shoot stuff, stage stuff. And then you leave the door and you just feel so much better. Your head's held higher. You've done a day's work about yourself. Yeah. And it is such a difference. And that's why during the pandemic, a lot of people struggle because they didn't get that self-gratification that work gives them that they don't realize they need.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think it left a lot of people questioning what's important in life, because once you strip work away, it's like, like I didn't do anything of my own, but I put in a good day's work.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was stripped away. And it's like, okay, so what are my hobbies? And what of my hobbies is actually just killing time. Now that I've got the time to do it, I've got no inclination to do it. You know what I mean? I love it when I speak to my artist friends or writers, and I think it's Banana Yoshimoto in the forward of her first book, Kitchen. She's got this great thank you. And she's like, I worked in this restaurant and my boss would give me an extra half-hour lunch break because I was writing this book. She would literally I don't know, she would use every waking minute to write. And so when she was on lunch break, it's like, I'm going to write. And I love that feel. I love that energy from other people who are just like, they're doing it. It doesn't matter about any kind of publishing. They just have this art, this thing inside of them that need to get out at all costs, which doesn't come to me. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. For example, writing, it's not that it takes no talent, but it's something you can do. If you're like, I want to get in woodwork. It's like, do you have the tools, the space, the know-how? Yeah. Writing is something that is plain and simple.
Mm-hmm. Pick up a pencil, pick up a piece of paper.
So when I say, I always wish I had the time to write, blah, 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 it's clearly not the case because, why haven't you? There's zero excuse, because we were into filmmaking for so long. And I guess I can always say, you need a crew, you need a proper script, blah, blah, blah. But
yeah, there's always an excuse. There is no excuse.
I didn't get the stuff done that I could have done on my own. You know what I mean? Where's the script? You don't need a crew where's your idea? Where's even if you're not an ideas guy, get a small group of people who are ideas people and it's just all talk and writing notes down. I don't know. Yeah. But that's my long way of saying the COVID sort of brought forth what I'm not saying a hobby has to be something that you can strive for, but a lot of the stuff I like to do in my own time lost interest during this pandemic. I find when I'm busy and stressed, I read better because it's a break from that. But during this, just my non-working time, reading just suddenly became hard to do. I sort of stopped reading for a massive chunk of it, I think.
It's exactly the same with gaming. I'm a big fan of playing games. I've always been a gamer. I loved gaming when I was younger, and I've loved it all the way through my adult years. But the second I got a month just to do that, after the first few weeks, I was just like,
does that sort of imply
the point of it?
It's a break hobby and a distraction hobby, but it's not a hobby within itself.
Yes.
When I'm working, I want to shut off from that. And reading or gaming is the perfect break because it's a reward, I suppose, for job well done.
Yes.
It's like the icing on the cake. I don't just want to eat
the only thing,
mouthfuls of icing. It's sickly. Yeah. And so my point was I guess the COVID taught me to okay, what is important to you? What do you want to do? What do you say? Okay, so you started up a whole cup business. You know what I mean? You got industrious.
Yeah,
you did something.
Yeah, Well, I just tried loads of different things. Gave things a go, which I wouldn't normally have the time to, and that's why I did it. Because
we need to do the just talking episode sometime about your cup company. I guess the more time that goes, the more there's wisdom, if you will. But we'll get around to that sometime.
Yeah, definitely. Wicked. Okay, well,
that was Stephen King's Cycle of the Werewolf,
some ramblings around the edges.
A catch up with Scott and Toby. I guess I keep forgetting our episodes go out so sporadically to any constant listener. It makes no difference, but just for a bit of continuity, I think me and Toby have caught up in a few months. This is our first recording in since January or something, and we are in March.
That long? Fucking hell.
We did a bunch at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
And we did one a week for 4 weeks.
Yeah. We've had a bit of a hiatus.
And then
I guess move and everything.
Yeah, it's just the way it goes. It's always a hobby podcast. I haven't lost energy with the podcast.
We've got a hobby. No, I haven't.
I did. We rushed to get Archive 81 out because we're very. We're not delayed we can be delayed with recording, but it's now March 2022 and we're just on the edge of putting out Midnight Mass, which is now
September 2021.
Right. And it's not it's a 1 hour listen. We did it ep by ep.
Yeah.
So we've got 7 hours of a TV show. You watched it a year ago or something. But so we rushed Archive 81 out. We were like, you know what? It's trending. It didn't make a difference.
Yeah,
I guess we don't need to hurry because it's got very, very few listeners. But that's all right. So it goes.
Yeah, thank you. Keep coming back.
All right.
Well, there we go.
Have a good day, constant listener.
Thank you for
Hey, we're going to wrap it up around there. I want to thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed. Join us again next episode, and until then, support your local bookstores, and have a great day.